Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about reviews. So let's get into it. So the question in question was a little bit of a story. Hello OP, thanks for this video. So this comment was posted on a pretty old one, which is called Slow Code Reviews Leads to Story Blocking, which I don't even remember what I was talking about in that one, but the title gives me a hint. I'm scouring YouTube for any videos on this topic, and yours is the one of the only couple I found. And this is such an important issue. Here's something that happened to me. I work at a very large reputable company full of open source developers. I'm comparatively new here, but I have 10 plus years of experience outside and just started contributing significantly here. Refactors are hard. I made one, worked with reviewers for 4 weeks, and now the second sprint comes to a close. One senior member has decided to refuse to let it go through. I wrote down bullet points on what's important and also gave compromise so we can get it through, and they have decided to not respond. Bottom line, my work won't go through. I accepted all the points and implemented them, worked very hard, but they changed the requirements. I'm not getting a good feeling about this culture where you can compromise with someone to get work done. Thoughts? Well, yeah, I usually this is I never make a lot of friends when I talk with people who are there's usually two types of people who, in terms of mentality, you have herd mindset and you have wolf mindset. And I never make a lot of friends in either camp uh, when I deal with these sorts of extremists, because when I talk to someone like this who has more of a herd mentality, uh, I usually say that a compromise is only useful when you have something to offer. Because if you're talking to someone who doesn't give two shits about how many compromises, you mean you even wrote it down, you compromise. Well, that's clearly not what they want. They don't care about you. That is the reality. The reality is that they don't give a shit about your compromise. The reality is that your compromise is not the thing that they look at as what should be happening. What they look at is that you should stop trying to push yourself and your own agenda into their quote-unquote most likely, which is the classic one, into their code base, and you should simply do the thing that you are being asked to do. And if you can't do it, well, you're in a really bad spot because you have no leverage whatsoever here. So they're just going to ignore you. And that seems to be a very tough pill for people who have a herd mentality to swallow. That every power and authority and leverage, these are the things that are necessary for any meaningful conversation to be possible with people who don't have the desire to be inclusive towards you. And if these people don't have any desire, or which this is not common, if there is no incentive for them to be inclusive, and as I said, they have more of a wolf mentality. I don't know how to call it, but like they're basically more of a they're fine with being disagreeable, or they're fine with not with well, let's just say they're fine with not being completely politically correct and all of these sorts of things, then there's not much you can do. And I usually say that slow reviews and troublesome reviewers, they're usually a sign that the people involved in the project care more about their own process more than the sum of the work. In other words, you can make as many contributions as you want, but unless you do it in the way they want, they're not going to care, because the value of the work that you are bringing in is not higher than their own, well, however they are doing things. It is worth knowing that if this is a continuous problem, there is, in my opinion, only two ways of resolving the issue. And it always comes down to the same thing. If you have people that lack the desire to adjust to you, and you lack the authority to force them basically to behave in a different way, in other words, there's no manager you can report to, or you don't have any way of connecting with the others and sort of highlighting the issues about this individual who is blocking you, seeing if you can get a second opinion, etc., etc. If there's no way to bend their arm, then the only option left is to either go back to the discussion table and ask, okay, could you take a look at this and tell me what's wrong with it, and basically comply and bend over backwards until they are happy with what you did, or walk away, which is the thing that I would have done if this is the issue. I mean, it's not clear to me if you're working for a company here, or if it's just an open source thing, because if it is a company, then, well, literally the only thing to do here is to highlight the issue and sit and wait. Because the reality is that if someone is not doing your code review, this amounts to the same thing as you have a coworker who won't work with you. And in situations like these, the best option I've always found is to, what is it that they say? Speak softly and carry a big stick. In other words, you learn how to present yourself on an average as the reasonable, well-spoken, sociable, likable person. And when issues like these, who are issues of character, where it's your words against their word, come up, you highlight the issue in such a way that questions are going to start arising. You don't accuse anyone of anything. You simply highlight that this is an issue. And that basically means, I've done this a few times as well, you don't get a review, and then just in the stand-up, every time when people ask you about the status of the work, you say, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's been in review now for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it doesn't matter how long it is, because it doesn't matter to you that the company is not getting this code merged. You're still getting paid. You can work on 100 other things at the same time while this thing never gets done, because nobody's doing the review. You have put the ball on the other coworkers. If they are not doing their job, your manager is going to sooner or later start asking some questions. Why is this not getting merged? It gets embarrassing until someone says that they're going to have the time to look at this thing, and then you continue that dance until some type of resolution happens, which is usually, like in extreme cases like these, it usually ends with someone getting a few stern talkings to, or even people getting fired, because these sort of stalemate situations, when they do happen, there's really nothing to be done. There's nothing you can do apart from, as I said, exploring these sorts of options. So what I want you to take away from this is that slow reviews and troublesome reviewers, in my opinion, are usually it's a sign that the individuals here that you work with, they mostly care about their own work more than like the collective work that is being done. And unfortunately, if you're in a situation where if it's an open source project and they are the maintainers, then it's sort of like having an annoying boss. Just bend over backwards. There may not be an open situation where you can compromise, but if they don't respond and nothing you do seems to matter, no matter how many times they change requirements, etc., etc., then it's more likely a case of that they don't care about your contributions, and you have to ask yourself, are you willing to comply until they do? There's nothing you can do, because you have no leverage. If you are if on the other hand you're being paid to do this job, and there's a manager or something like that, then I suggest that you do what I said. This is the reason why politics is about appearances to a large degree, and why it's very important for you to groom a personal brand of being a very agreeable, nice person. Because in a situation like this, when it's words against words, the person in power, which is usually your manager, is going to start looking for answers as to why the work is not progressing. And if you are always very agreeable, sociable, etc., etc., in the presence of other people, and you say that nobody's doing the code review, that doesn't look good for the senior. And if they start asking questions, sooner or later they're going to have to comply and do the code review, or well, you're going to have to play this dance until you finally get this thing through. The story might take, guys, I've been in situations where it has taken months to get a single thing done because of these weird office politics and these internal disputes between people. Company was fine with it. And if you're getting paid to do this, why do you care how fast the story gets closed? It's really down to, do you want to deal with this sort of work environment? Yes or no? Have a great day.